Have you ever wondered why you came into this world under one constellation and not another? Why certain paths pull you with an invisible force while others, no matter how logical, fade without a trace? Since the dawn of humanity, sages across cultures have looked to the sky not as a simple backdrop, but as a living library of symbols and intention. The movements of the heavens were once seen as a divine language. Every alignment was a verse, every planet an actor in the great drama of the soul. And you're no exception. You were born at a precise instant, not a second earlier, not a second later. That moment carries an energetic signature, a sacred seal holding the map of your soul. In this video, we'll step into what many call the ancient codes, a forgotten wisdom showing how the sky at your birth doesn't just reflect your personality, but whispers hidden purposes, chosen challenges, and the core lessons your soul came to embody. We'll explore the idea that your natal chart is not just a psychological profile, but a sacred manuscript, a stellar codex mapping the divine design of your life. We'll speak of planetary alignments as energetic portals, zodiac houses as inner temples, and aspects as archetypal forces dancing within you. This won't be a dry astrology class. It will be an initiatory journey, an invitation to read the sky as the soul's mirror. You'll see how Saturn's motion reveals your karmic cycles, how your moon holds the memory of your spiritual childhood, and how the sun in your chart doesn't just shine outward, but reminds you of the unique way you are meant to radiate from within. Understanding your astrological plan isn't about predicting the future. It's about remembering the pact you made before you forgot. It's about reclaiming the sacred language spoken by ancient initiates and recognizing that your soul is not lost. It's written in the stars. Stay with me, because you're about to remember something you've always known. Once you read what the sky inscribed in you, you'll never see yourself the same way again. Before astrology was reduced to casual horoscopes and entertainment columns, it was honored as a sacred science, a path of spiritual revelation and initiation. It wasn't born from superstition. It grew from a deep reading of the soul incarnated in time. In ancient civilizations, sages didn't separate the cosmos from the human being. To them, what was above reflected what was below. This hermetic axiom, as above, so below, was not just poetic, it was law. The sky was a living mirror, and every celestial movement echoed inner, psychological, and spiritual processes. In Egypt, temples aligned with constellations. Pharaohs were not crowned without consulting the heavens. It was believed the soul, upon entering the body, chose a precise cosmic moment that sealed its mission on Earth. That moment was encoded in the natal chart, regarded as a map of the divine plan. In Babylon, astrologers were also priests. Their role wasn't to predict trivial events, but to read the will of the sky and guide the collective soul's evolution. Eclipses were calls for transformation. Planetary transits were cosmic rites, and zodiac cycles were spiritual initiations. The Greeks, inheriting this knowledge, gave it philosophical form. For Plato, the soul came from the stars, and returning to the celestial world was life's true purpose. In his view, the birth chart was the tympanum of the psyche, the membrane vibrating with the cosmos's harmony or dissonance. It wasn't blind fate, it was a script for consciousness. Even in ancient Vedic traditions, Jyotish, the science of light, was one of the 6 pillars of spiritual knowledge. Each planet was a living intelligence, a divine archetype shaping karma, not to limit us but to push us toward awakening. True astrologers were not just interpreters of events, they were readers of souls. They decoded celestial symbols not to control life, but to reveal its deepest meaning. Every chart was a sacred codex, a fragment of the soul in geometric form, a bridge between the infinite and the incarnate. With the rise of rationalism and the breaking apart of knowledge, this vision lost its soul but not its spark. That flame still lives in those who remember the cosmos is not outside us but within us. That we are not lost passengers but star travelers with a forgotten plan. And that plan, engraved in the dance of the stars at your birth, isn't written to predict you, but to awaken you. Picture this. Before you were born, your soul sat in a cosmic chamber surrounded by great celestial archetypes. Each planet offered an energy, a lesson, a gift, and a challenge, not as punishment but as fertile ground for growth. "Are you ready to incarnate?" the stars asked. "Yes," your soul replied, and you chose the exact moment to descend. That moment sealed a contract, a vibrational agreement between you and the universe. That agreement lives in your natal chart. The birth chart is not just a map. It's a living mandala, an energetic framework that encodes the paths through which your soul will awaken. Each planet is an archetypal force, each sign a unique vibration, each house a zone of the incarnate soul, and every aspect is a conversation between energies, sometimes harmonious, sometimes tense, sometimes challenging, depending on how they're integrated. Let's start with the key players, the planets. In esoteric astrology, they're not just rocks floating in space. They are living entities, archetypal intelligences that dwell in the sky and in your psyche. The sun represents your essence, the solar core of your purpose. Its sign and house reveal how you're meant to shine and what you must overcome to live from soul instead of ego. The moon, keeper of emotional memory, shows how you were nurtured and how you need to nurture yourself. It speaks of your earliest emotional wound as well as your capacity for deep self-care. Mercury reveals how you process the world, communicate and interpret reality, and at its core, how you translate the soul's language into human words. Venus and Mars, the dance of love and action, show how you give and receive affection, how you act with passion or hesitation, and how you go after what matters to you. Jupiter and Saturn speak of expansion and limits, of the generous teacher and the disciplined master. One opens doors, the other teaches you to build lasting foundations. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto represent forces beyond personal control. Resist them and they can break you. Embrace them and they transform you. The houses where they appear reveal where these energies will manifest. Your sun in the 12th house. Then the light of your soul isn't found on the public stage, but in retreats of the spirit, in silence and inner work. Your Mars in the 7th house? Your battleground isn't about conquering the outer world. It's relationships themselves. And then there are the aspects, those invisible lines connecting planets. A square isn't bad. It's simply tension between parts of you that haven't yet learned how to work together. A trine isn't automatically good. It can easily become a comfort zone. What matters is how they interact, and whether you choose to be the conscious mediator of that conversation. This is where astrology becomes alchemy, because when you understand how those energies move within you, you can start working with them intentionally. The unconscious becomes visible. Chaos becomes clear. cycles become predictable. And with that, power is born. The power to stop repeating patterns without knowing why. The power to direct your energy from the soul rather than from reactivity. The power to live your design as a conscious art. Until now, we've explored the visible elements of the celestial map, the planets and their alignments. But like every esoteric symbol, the birth chart is also a multi-dimensional hieroglyph. Its deepest meaning isn't found in the data alone, but in the silences between them. The ancients knew the soul couldn't be summed up by a checklist of zodiac traits. They understood each chart is a score, but the soul is the performer. Some carry maps filled with harmony, yet never play the music. Others are born with tense, complex aspects and still become alchemists of their own being. Here lies one of the most mysterious principles of ancient astrological wisdom. Your chart doesn't dictate who you are. It shows what you have the potential to become. Take the ascendant. More than a social mask, it's the soul's doorway into the body, the frequency with which spirit began its earthly journey. It's not just how others see you, it's the core approach your soul chose to navigate life's density. A Scorpio ascendant doesn't just signal intensity, it tells of a life of transformation, of symbolic death and rebirth, where truth is often torn out by fire rather than gathered gently. The midheaven, the chart's highest point, represents the culmination of your journey. It's not just about career or vocation, it's the solar purpose expressed in the world. It's where your soul longs to leave its mark. Beyond the visible planets, there are subtle points, hidden keys the astrologer priests of old revered. One is Black Moon Lilith, which points to the primordial wound of spiritual independence. Wherever Lilith is placed, the soul feels an ancient tension between desire and exile, power and shadow. It's a secret code about your spirit's memory before birth. Less a psychological wound and more a sense of metaphysical exile. There lies a force that can only be released when you stop hiding it. Another is the North Node, which marks the evolutionary path. It's not what's comfortable or familiar, it's what the soul came to learn, even when the personality resists. The South Node, by contrast, shows the skills and strengths you've already mastered. Leaning on them as a refuge, however, can halt your growth. Here begins the real spiritual work of the mystic astrologer, teaching you to live your chart as a process, not a sentence. Because no one is their chart, you become it by consciously aligning with the archetypes in your map. When you take Mars and turn it into constructive strength rather than destructive anger, when you channel Saturn's discipline into building your mission instead of undermining it, when Neptune stops being a fog of confusion and becomes a gateway to divine inspiration. But here's one of esoteric astrology's most potent, uncomfortable truths. Until you become conscious of your map, it will live you. You'll react from your aspects, repeat your patterns, get lost in the transits, thinking, that's just life. Only when you wake up can you choose. That's why the natal chart is more than a map. It's a tool for liberation. It doesn't tell you exactly what will happen. It shows what's possible, what can be activated if you're willing to see through the soul's eye instead of the mind's judgment. The chart doesn't predict, it reveals. It doesn't bind, it offers the keys to your inner temple. When you see it this way, you stop walking as a victim of fate and start living as a co-creator of the sacred plan you chose before you forgot. Knowing you have an astrological plan is powerful. Living by it, that's the true act of alchemy. It's not enough to simply know your natal chart. What matters is living it, step by step, day by day, in the way you think, feel, speak, and act. A map is useless if you admire it from a distance. It has to be lived in body, spirit, and will. Here are 5 keys, not surface-level tips, but transformational practices to help you start walking in alignment with your cosmic design. First, make your natal chart a mirror for self-awareness, not an excuse. Some people discover difficult aspects and give up, saying, "I'm just like this because Saturn is in my first house." That's not the way. Your chart isn't meant to trap you. It's meant to show you what you're here to transcend. Treat each aspect as a doorway to growth, not as a reason to stay stuck in your shadows. Second, see planetary transits as temporary teachers. Every transit, Pluto, Uranus, Saturn, Jupiter, activates parts of your chart like a knock at your door. This isn't random, it's an invitation to initiation. When Saturn moves across your sun, it's asking for structure in your identity. When Neptune touches your moon, it's urging you to dissolve emotional illusions. Don't resist them. Ask what they're here to teach you. Third, honor your North Node as a compass. No matter how skilled you are at what you already know, your South Node, if you don't move toward your soul's evolutionary direction, you'll feel stuck. Every week, ask yourself, what can I do to move toward that destiny that feels uncomfortable but necessary? Fourth, create personal rituals that move with the moons and planetary cycles. Practical astrology isn't passive, it's an energetic dance. At the new moon, plant intentions aligned with your chart. At the full moon, notice what's coming to fruition and what it's time to release. During Mercury retrograde, reflect, revise, and realign. Don't live on the sidelines of the sky. Move with it. Fifth, meditate with your personal planets as inner archetypes. Close your eyes and imagine your sun, moon, and Venus as living beings. What do they look like? What do they say? What kind of energy do they radiate? This may seem symbolic, but it can unlock deep layers of your psyche. Remember, the planets aren't just above you, they're also within you. Living from your natal chart doesn't mean everything is set in stone. It means you hold a detailed blueprint of your inner temple. And like any temple, it needs to be walked through, honored, and breathed in. Make your chart a quiet companion, not a judge. Not a decoration, but an inner teacher, reminding you every day who you came here to be and which parts of you are still waiting to awaken. The natal chart isn't an oracle dictating your future or a checklist limiting who you can be. It's an ancient code, a celestial manuscript your soul wrote before you were born, trusting that one day you'd remember how to read it. Deep down, you've always known your wounds weren't random, your gifts weren't just genetics, and your life wasn't an accident. There's a hidden rhythm, a music that's been playing since before your first breath, and maybe now, for the first time in a long while, you're starting to hear it. You don't have to become an astrologer to live by this code. You only need the awareness that there's a sky within you, and that the planets aren't pulling your strings from above, but reflecting the plan you designed for your own evolution. Spiritual astrology isn't about prediction. It's about recognition. Recognition of patterns that repeat until you see them. Recognition of dormant potentials waiting to be awakened. Recognition that everything has its own timing, its own symbol, its own language, and that you hold the keys to unlock it. Imagine for a moment that all your experiences, even the hardest ones, were chosen for a higher purpose, that every shadow was placed to teach you, that every planetary alignment was a brushstroke on the canvas of your soul. So what do you do with that knowledge now? Maybe you start noticing your days more carefully. Maybe you give yourself permission to honor your natural rhythm instead of running yourself like a machine. Maybe, for the first time, you feel you're not lost. You're exactly where you need to be. And from that place, life changes. Not because the sky changes, but because you start reading it with new awareness. The sun in your chart isn't just ego, it's your source of light. The moon isn't just emotion, it's your sacred root. Saturn doesn't just limit, it shapes you so you can sustain your mission. Neptune doesn't just confuse, it invites you to dissolve illusions and connect with divine inspiration. Each planet speaks, guides, and reminds you because your soul comes from the sky, and that sky, in the moment you were born, drew your divine plan in symbols. Now more than ever, you're ready to remember it. And if you choose to listen, your life will stop feeling like chaos and start feeling like what it's always been, a sacred journey, a cosmic dance, a story written among the stars, yet told through you.